Flosstube, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do an easy bow hack tutorial, and I'm going to share how I created my bow for my Flossiversary Summer Sal 2023 finish, as well as this July 4th holiday hoopla finish. I had lots of questions after my Flossiversary Summer Sal finish, and so because I was going to be creating a bow for this smaller finish, I thought I would go ahead and share it. With this hack, you are going to need something to cover the center of your bow. I like covered buttons, and so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go ahead and I stitched an additional little star from this with thy needle and thread chart. I actually think I used a different chart, but it's a star in her style, and I'm going to be creating the smallest size button here that I have, which I believe is 7/8 of an inch if I'm not mistaken. I'm using the template to cut it out. This is actually a corner of the linen from where I got my finish. I usually use a bigger piece than I need of fabric, whatever fabric I'm using, almost always. And so I just stitch a little covered button in the corner, cut it out, and then I'm going to go ahead and make my button using the form. If you haven't seen my button making tutorial, you can definitely check that out. I will link it down in the description below the video here on YouTube, as well as I'll try to throw a link in the video here, and you can check that out. Now, I do think these smallest ones, and I left this in the video because I think they're fussy. I think they're a little bit harder to put together. Just because it's harder to get the linen and get your fingers, especially if you've got nails like I do, or did at this point, into the button form. Now, I like to check it continuously, and because I want that as centered as possible. I will use my pen. You can see I've got a friction pen there. I will use something that will fit down inside to try to get that centered. I'm going to use my little hammer. Let's see if I get it centered this time. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Once you have it where you want it to go, and that's for any of the sizes, I like to kind of press all those edges in, and I'm actually using my little insert to help smooth those in. Then you'll place the back of your button down, and you're going to want to take your little, in my case, it's blue. I can't remember if it's that color in all of the sets or not, but you want to take that piece and you can press it in. I usually give it a couple of gentle taps with my little mini hammer. You could use a little rubber mallet as well or something, and then pop my button out. Easy as that. It is the easiest thing ever. So now that I have my button, which is going to cover the center of my bow, I am ready to create my bow, and it really is the easiest little hack. So I use, for this particular bow, but it could be for any size bow, 2 pieces of ribbon, and I fold my ribbon in half, and then I just create a little notched edge. I'm going to hold it up to my project and kind of determine how long I want my bow tails to be. If you were tying a traditional bow, this would be how long those tails are. In this case, this is my hack. This is the complete, not a traditional bow at all. Then I'm going to loop my ribbon. So I'm just folding it. In this case, it's really easy. This hack is especially great if you have a single-sided ribbon. This is a double-sided ribbon, meaning you could tie it into a bow and it would be beautiful, but a lot of ribbon that we get for our finishes are not. But I'm going to loop it and see if that kind of fits on my tail end, and I'm going to snip this. And I like to have it overhang a little. You're going to see why. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this, and I will be sharing another way in my finishing tutorial for the Christmas in July, the Sleigh Ride Sal 2023. However, this is a great way to finish if you don't have a lot of layers and if your ribbon isn't super duper thick. So that's my bow. See how pretty that is going to look? Now, because this is overlapped a little bit here, and I think I'm shortening it just a little. I think I wanted more of my tails to stick out. I like to fuss around with it, but you want to have maybe a 1/2 inch overhang or so. And then you want to thread a needle with some thread, because we're going to gather this. And the reason I say you're going to want either a covered button, or you could just use any kind of button, or even wrap fabric around. There's lots of things you could do for the center, but I love a covered button. I think it's a great little way to add additional interest. But the reason we want something is because the center of our bow is not going to be super pretty like it would be if you tied a bow. I have some videos as well, and I will link that, where I have tied a bow, so you can see a fun way to tie a bow for like an ornament. So I will share that as well. But this is my favorite hack when you want a more decorative bow or a little bit bigger bow. Once I have my needle threaded, I am going to lay my bow pieces together. If you need to, you could pin it. You could use Clover Wonder Clips. This is a small enough bow, I didn't need that. You want to center it together, and then I come up from the bottom, and I'm going to just stitch a little running stitch all the way through those 3 layers. So the reason you need that overhang in the back is to catch all of the layers for your loop. And then I'm going to pull it tight, and you can see how it gathers. Literally, this only takes a few minutes. It's so easy. And then I wrap my thread around the center to give it that really tight bow shape. You probably wouldn't have to do it this many times. I had a lot of extra string, so I just did, but I probably more than I needed. And then I like to kind of fuss it with it a little bit. I like to kind of fluff up those bow. This is a wired ribbon, pardon me. And so you can really play with it. And then I'm just going to create a little knot in the back. And once I have my knot, you can snip that. I like to do it in two parts. You could at that point go ahead and sew your button onto the front or glue, but I like to usually just sew it, and there's your bow. And the reason, again, now you can really see why we want to cover up that center, is it doesn't actually look that bad, but I always like that little extra decorative touch. So if you've got like a little wood shape, or a rusty star, in this case I think would be really cute, or a wood star that you've painted, covered buttons like I'm going to do here, or other kinds of decorative buttons, anything like that. Now, because these buttons have that shank on the back, I again threaded my needle, knotted it, and now I'm going to tie it on. How about sew it on? And I'm just going through that center, and I'm probably going to go through a couple times. They are a little fussy just because of that shank in the back. Sometimes I will remove the shank and just hot glue it in place. I usually do put a little hot glue or some sort of glue, E6000 or something, to hold that button exactly where I want it to go. It really just depends on how secure I think it is. But all we're doing is sewing the button into the center of the bow. And then we will do what we did last time. I'm just going to run that through the back, and then I'm going to take the end of my needle through that loop a couple of times, or do it a couple of times just to get it nice and knotted. There will be a little dab of hot glue. You could use the Titebond glue, something like that, to hold this in place on your finish. Just something nice and secure, and it also secures those threads on the back. So now that we have our bow, we are ready to finish this. And I like to kind of play with my button, play with the loops, especially with a wired ribbon, and kind of get that exactly where you want. So very easy bow hack. And it ends up, you get the beautiful finish every time. A lot of times, and I'm sure you have found this, bows can be hard. We love them on our finishes, right? But they can be hard to do. So I wanted to show you, there's what it would look like up at the top. I kind of wanted mine down near the base. You know, play around, see where you like it the best. It can be anywhere. And then I like to look and see, where's that hot glue gonna go? I wanna use as little hot glue as possible. Oh, I love that. I actually really, really love this finish. This is a round basic board from Chantal's 141 design. I will have that listed down in the description. I used a little hot glued the pom-pom trim. I used press-on board for back behind my July 4th holiday hoopla and back behind my fabric, as well as some batting. I talk about that in my Flosstube episodes as well, where I shared this finish. And the finishing technique is just like the Flossiversary Summer Sal. I will link all of those videos down in the description below, as well as all of the tools I used. I hope you have found this bow hack video tutorial helpful. I would love to see your bows. Make sure and tag me on social media if you use it. And I can't wait to see you again in the next video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. The supplies I used for this finishing tutorial are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Please make sure and check out the description for all of the supplies. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new Flosstube stitching or quilting video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.